My wife wanted to open up our marriage to explore, but when I thrived and she didn't, she turned the tables and tried to paint me as the villain. So I'm 34 bam, married to my wife, 32F, and we've been together for 7 years. From the outside, it probably looks like we've got a perfect life. I run a successful business, and we're comfortable financially. We've traveled, experienced things, and live in a nice house. Basically, we had what I thought was a pretty solid life together. Then, a few months ago, she hit me with something I never saw coming. She told me she wanted to open up our marriage. Her reasoning? She said she felt like we were missing out on experiences, and she wanted to explore her options. Now, she also said she still loved me and wasn't looking to end things, but it completely blindsided me. I mean, we didn't have issues in the intimacy department, and I've always made sure to be there for her emotionally and physically. I didn't understand why she suddenly felt this way. At first, I wasn't on board. It's not exactly a fun thing to hear that your wife wants to see other people, but after thinking about it, I figured maybe I'd see where it went. She's an adult, and if this was something she needed to do, I wasn't going to hold her back. However, I made it clear that if she wanted to explore, it had to go both ways. If she was going to meet other men, then I was going to meet other women. Here's where things took an unexpected turn. As soon as we opened the marriage, I started having success in ways I didn't even anticipate. I jumped on a few dating apps and was immediately getting matches left and right. I met people through work and even had a few flings while traveling for business. I guess I never realized that being financially successful, in shape, and confident would be such a magnet. Let's just say I wasn't lacking for attention. My wife? Well, her experience wasn't quite the same. She went on a few dates, but nothing stuck. A couple of the guys she met ghosted her, and she seemed frustrated that it wasn't what she expected it to be. Meanwhile, I was honestly having the time of my life. It was fun, exciting, and a real eye-opener. After a few months, I started to rethink things. Why stay in a marriage where my wife wanted to be with other people? It felt like she was looking for an excuse to cheat without consequences. So I decided that if she wanted to be single, we could make it official. I filed for divorce. Now, here's the kicker. She's furious with me. She's telling our mutual friends that I'm only divorcing her because she didn't have the same level of success in this open arrangement as I did, which isn't true at all. It's not about competition. It's about realizing that I don't need to be in a marriage where we're both seeing other people. What's the point of that? I'm happy with the direction my life is going, and if she's unhappy, that's not my problem. Now she's accusing me of punishing her for wanting to explore herself, but the truth is, I've just realized that our paths are no longer aligned. We're not the same couple we were, and I don't see the point in pretending we are. So, Ada for filing for divorce when she's the one who wanted to open the marriage in the first place? Update 1. After filing for divorce, things took a turn I didn't expect. I figured we could part ways civilly, given that she was the one who originally wanted to open our marriage, but that couldn't have been further from reality. Once I served her the papers, she completely lost it. She's been going around telling our mutual friends that I'm only divorcing her because I was jealous that her exploring herself didn't go as smoothly as mine. She's painting herself as the victim, saying I'm abandoning her and refusing to give her time to figure things out. I tried explaining to a few friends that this had nothing to do with her success or lack thereof in the open relationship, but more about the fact that our marriage clearly wasn't working anymore. Most of them nodded and said they understood, but I could tell that they were buying into her narrative more than mine. What really got me was that one of our mutual friends, someone I've known for over a decade, even tried to suggest that maybe I should have been more patient with her. She told me, everyone goes through phases. Maybe she just needed time to figure out what she really wanted. I'm sorry, but I feel like suggesting that I should have waited for my wife to figure out whether or not she wanted to be with me is beyond absurd. We had 7 years together, and now she needed more time? No thanks. I told this friend that I appreciated her perspective, but there was no coming back from this. The trust was shattered, and I was tired of pretending things were okay when they clearly weren't. Still, it was frustrating to see people I considered close friends taking her side, or at least sympathizing with her more than they did with me. The legal process has also been draining. My wife decided to contest parts of the divorce, particularly the financial aspects. I've built my business from the ground up long before we were married, and I made sure to keep it separate from our joint assets. However, she's now claiming that she contributed to my success by supporting me throughout our marriage. I won't lie, this hit a nerve. I know marriage is a partnership, and sure, we supported each other emotionally, but her trying to take credit for the financial success I've worked so hard for feels like a low blow. Now we're stuck in this ugly battle over assets. She's demanding a larger share than she's entitled to, and her reasoning is that since she hasn't had as much success dating during our open marriage, she feels she's being left behind while I get to move on with my life. That, to me, is the most ridiculous part. I never wanted this in the first place. She was the one who wanted to explore, and now that she realizes it's not working out for her, I'm the bad guy for moving on. What's even worse is that she's now trying to paint me as some heartless businessman who's just using the divorce to hoard money and leave her with nothing. I can't even count how many people have subtly, or not so subtly, hinted that I should be generous with her in the settlement. It's as if they think I owe her something for simply existing in our marriage while I did the work to grow my business. I'm not heartless, but I'm also not going to let her manipulate this situation to get more than she deserves. Despite all this, I've been trying to keep my cool and handle things with as much grace as possible. I've been dating casually, but honestly, my heart's not fully in it right now. I'm still processing everything, and the stress of the divorce has made it hard to focus on anything else. Part of me feels like I need to step away from dating altogether and just take some time for myself, but at the same time, I don't want to let her have the satisfaction of thinking she's somehow ruined my life. The whole process is exhausting. I've been meeting with my lawyer frequently to make sure everything is fair, but the more we dive into the financials, the more complicated things get. It turns out my wife has been making some questionable financial decisions during the last few months of our marriage, racking up debt I wasn't even aware of. My lawyer advised me to take this seriously because if I'm not careful, I could end up on the hook for some of her debts. Apparently, she's been using our joint accounts to fund her exploration, including paying for fancy dinners and trips with the men she was seeing. This was news to me, and it felt like another punch in the gut. I confronted her about it, and she didn't even deny it. Instead, she said that I owed her this because I was doing the same thing. She said that since I was also seeing other women, it was only fair that she use our shared money to fund her dates. I tried to explain that I wasn't using our joint accounts for anything related to my dating life, but she didn't seem to care. It's like she's completely detached from reality at this point. My lawyer is confident that we'll be able to sort this out in court, but it's going to be a long and drawn-out process. I'm preparing myself for the worst, but I can't help but feel angry that it's come to this. I was willing to walk away clean, but now it feels like she's doing everything she can to drag this out and make it as painful as possible. I've also started seeing a therapist to help me deal with the emotional toll this is all taking. I never thought I'd be someone who needed therapy, but honestly, it's been helpful. I'm starting to realize that a lot of the frustration I'm feeling isn't just about the divorce, but about the fact that I've spent so much time bending over backward to make things work in this marriage, only to have it fall apart in such a ridiculous way. I've been carrying a lot of anger and resentment, and talking it out with someone neutral has helped me start to let go of some of that. At the end of the day, I know this is just a chapter of my life, and it'll eventually pass. But right now, it feels like I'm stuck in the middle of a never-ending nightmare, and I just want it to be over. Hopefully, once the legal stuff is settled, I can start to move on and rebuild my life without all this chaos hanging over me. Update 2. Things have continued to escalate, and honestly, I didn't think it could get any worse. But here we are. After weeks of back-and-forth negotiations, my wife is now accusing me of hiding assets. She claims that I've been funneling money into secret accounts to keep it out of the divorce settlement. I don't even know where she got this idea from, but she's adamant about it, and now her lawyer is demanding a full audit of all my financials. This is absolutely ridiculous because I've been completely transparent about everything from the start. It feels like she's grasping at straws at this point, trying to find anything she can use against me. I've handed over all my bank statements, business records, everything, but she's still convinced I'm hiding something. It's infuriating because I've done nothing wrong, and now I'm being treated like a criminal just because she's bitter about how things turned out. To make matters worse, she's been telling anyone who will listen that I'm trying to screw her over financially. She's playing the victim card hard, and some people are eating it up. A few of our mutual friends have reached out to me, saying they've heard rumors that I've been stashing money away and asking if it's true. I'm at my breaking point with all of this. I've worked hard to build my business and be responsible with my money, and now I'm being dragged through the mud for no reason other than her resentment. The situation with the audit has delayed the divorce proceedings even further, which means more legal fees and more stress for me. My lawyer says we have nothing to worry about, but the fact that we even have to go through this process is exhausting. I just want this to be over, but it feels like she's doing everything in her power to make sure that doesn't happen. Meanwhile, I've tried to distance myself from the dating scene. After everything that's happened, I'm not in the right headspace for it. I've met some great women, but I'm finding it hard to trust anyone right now. Every time I start to get close to someone, I pull back because I'm terrified of being hurt again. The betrayal from my wife has left me questioning everything, and I'm not sure how to move forward. I know I need to work on myself before I can even think about being in a serious relationship again, but it's hard not to feel lonely in the meantime. On top of all this, my wife dropped another bombshell on me during one of our meetings. She admitted that she had been seeing one of the men she dated during our open marriage phase, long before she even brought up the idea of opening the relationship. So, not only was she emotionally cheating on me, but she had been planning this for months before I even knew about it. It felt like the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. The whole open marriage idea wasn't about her wanting to explore herself. It was about her trying to justify her affair and make it seem like it was something we both wanted. I can't believe I was so blind to it at the time. Now, looking back, all the signs were there, but I ignored them because I wanted to trust her. It's clear now that this was never about us. It was always about her. After learning about her affair, I felt even more betrayed than before. The whole time I thought we were trying something new for the sake of our relationship. She was just covering her tracks and giving herself permission to continue seeing this guy. I couldn't believe how deep the deception went. It made me realize that the foundation of our marriage had been crumbling long before she even brought up the idea of an open relationship. I confronted her about it during one of our divorce meetings, and she didn't even seem remorseful. Instead, she acted like it was no big deal and that I should have known something like this would happen. She said, "People grow apart. It's natural." I was floored. It's like she couldn't understand how devastating it was to hear that the woman I thought I was building a life with had been lying to me for months. She brushed it off as if it were a minor issue, and I think that hurt more than anything. The revelation about her affair made me even more determined to get this divorce finalized. There was no coming back from this, and I wanted nothing more than to be done with her. However, she's still making the process as difficult as possible. The audit of my financials came back clean, just as I knew it would, but she refused to accept the results. Her lawyer is now demanding a second audit, claiming that the first one wasn't thorough enough. It's clear that they're just trying to drag this out to wear me down, but I'm not giving in. In the midst of all this chaos, I've been reflecting on my own life and choices. I never thought I'd be the kind of person to get divorced, let alone under these circumstances. I always imagined myself growing old with someone who genuinely cared about me and respected the relationship we had built together. This experience has shattered that illusion and left me questioning everything I thought I knew about love and trust. I've started to distance myself from some of our mutual friends, especially those who seem to be siding with her. I'm not sure if they actually believe her lies or if they're just trying to be neutral, but I can't handle the pitying looks and awkward conversations anymore. It's clear that some of them have made up their minds about me, and I don't need that kind of negativity in my life right now. One of the few silver linings in this whole mess is that I've reconnected with a couple of old friends I hadn't spoken to in years. They've been incredibly supportive and have reminded me of who I was before this toxic situation took over my life. Spending time with them has been a breath of fresh air, and it's helped me realize that there's a life waiting for me outside of this divorce drama. I'm also focusing more on my business than ever before. In a way, it's been my escape from everything that's happening. Throwing myself into work has given me a sense of control that I've been missing in my personal life. I've taken on new projects and expanded in ways I hadn't considered before, and it's been rewarding to see the fruits of my labor paying off. At least in that area of my life, things are moving in a positive direction. As for my wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, I've reached the point where I don't even recognize her anymore. The woman I fell in love with is gone, replaced by someone who seems to care more about winning this divorce than anything else. She's still trying to portray herself as the victim, but I've stopped caring about what people think. I know the truth, and that's enough for me. I had one final conversation with her recently where I laid everything out on the table. I told her that I didn't hate her, but I was done with the games. I told her I wanted this divorce to be over so we could both move on with our lives. Her response? She laughed. She actually laughed and said, "You'll be back." I don't know if she genuinely believes that or if it was just another manipulation tactic, but it was a sobering moment. It made me realize just how far apart we've grown and how much better off I'll be once this chapter of my life is closed for good. Update 3. After what felt like an eternity, the divorce is finally nearing its conclusion. We're set to sign the final papers next week, and I can't even describe the relief I'm feeling. This process has been emotionally and financially draining, but knowing that it's almost over has lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. The second audit that her lawyer demanded came back clean, just like the first one. At this point, even her own lawyer seemed tired of the whole thing. It was clear that there was nothing to find, and the delays were just prolonging the inevitable. Once the second audit came through, there was nothing left for her to contest. Her demands for a larger share of the assets were shut down, and the debts she had accrued during the marriage were confirmed to be her responsibility, not mine. I've been doing a lot of reflecting on everything that's happened, and while this experience has been painful, I've also learned a lot about myself. For one, I've realized that I'm stronger than I thought. There were moments during this process when I felt like I was at my breaking point, but I pushed through. I've come out on the other side, and even though I'm still healing, I know I'll be okay. I've also learned the importance of setting boundaries and standing up for myself. There were so many times during our marriage when I let things slide because I didn't want to rock the boat. I prioritized her happiness over my own, and in the end, that contributed to the breakdown of our relationship. If I had spoken up sooner and been more honest with myself about how I was feeling, maybe things would have turned out differently, or maybe not. Either way, I'm taking those lessons with me as I move forward. Once the divorce is finalized, I plan to take some time for myself. I've already booked a solo trip to Europe, something I've always wanted to do but never got around to because I was too focused on our life together. This trip isn't about meeting new people or jumping into another relationship. It's about rediscovering who I am outside of my marriage. I want to take this time to reflect, recharge, and figure out what I really want for the next chapter of my life. As for my ex-wife, I haven't spoken to her since our last meeting, and I don't plan to. There's nothing left to say. I've accepted that the person I married no longer exists, and I've let go of any hope of understanding why she did what she did. It's not my responsibility to figure that out, and holding on to that question was only keeping me stuck in the past. I need to focus on my future now, and that future doesn't include her. One of the most surprising developments in all of this is that some of the friends who initially sided with her have started reaching out to me. They've apologized for believing her version of events and admitted that they were wrong about me. Apparently, she's been behaving erratically lately, and it's become clear to them that she wasn't the innocent victim she claimed to be. I appreciate the apologies, but I'm keeping my distance for now. I don't hold any grudges, but I'm also not in a rush to let those people back into my life. Trust is something that has to be earned, and after everything that's happened, I'm not giving it away so easily anymore. I've also been thinking a lot about what I want out of future relationships. This whole experience has made me reevaluate what I'm looking for in a partner. I want someone who values honesty, communication, and mutual respect, qualities that were clearly lacking in my marriage. I know it'll take time before I'm ready to open myself up to love again, but when I do, I'll be much more intentional about who I let into my life. In the meantime, I'm focusing on myself and my goals. My business is doing better than ever, and I've started to pursue some personal projects that I'd put on hold during my marriage. It feels good to have my life back in my own hands, and I'm excited about what the future holds. Looking back, I never imagined things would turn out like this. Divorce was never part of the plan, and the betrayal I experienced has been one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with. But I've come to realize that sometimes things have to fall apart so that better things can come together. I'm not the same person I was at the beginning of this journey, and for that, I'm grateful. This is the end of one chapter, but it's also the beginning of a new one. I don't know exactly what's next for me, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to find out.